Good afternoon, David Frankel. I live in Kaimaki. I will not personally be affected by this project, but I think it's an incredible social and environmental injustice. Let's talk about the wall for a second. And people emphasize the importance of the wall to protect public safety. But it's fairly basic hydrology that building the wall as is proposed, as is described, is going to negatively affect the neighborhoods of Kapahulu, Makali, Moilili, because the water that would have flown through Waikiki will backfill into those neighborhoods. So in order to save Waikiki, you're screwing the communities that live on the other side of the canal. That's just wrong. It is absolutely unjust to save Waikiki at the expense of residents of Moilili, Makali, Kapahulu. And you should not move this forward until at a very minimum that issue is addressed. Our streams. Putting a 33-foot tall, 400-foot long, and 100-foot wide structure in a naturally flowing stream destroys it. It destroys what makes our communities great. It destroys something you don't need to destroy. It is wrong. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to walk along any of these streams, but they're beautiful. They are what Hawaii is about. They are not about engineering. They are a natural resource. And this plan destroys them. There is a better way that the Army Corps is refusing to look at and what the city is refusing to look at. And those ways are described in part in the EIS, and they're not fully considered. You guys took a great step a few months ago when you passed the Monster House law and put a limit on impervious surface. That's the first step we need to do to reduce runoff so we don't have huge flooding problems. The city was very resistant to you incorporating that requirement in the law. We need to now go the next step to reduce the amount of impervious surface so that we can protect communities. The plan fails to look at reasonable alternatives. What we get from the administration is this attitude that we listen, we're listening, yeah, they're listening, but they don't care what they hear. They are not making changes to the plan. They are patting us on the head in a condescending manner, saying they've taken our input. They don't care what we say. By passing this resolution, you are authorizing the mayor to sign this agreement, which has substantive legal effect. This city will be on the hook to pay the Army Corps of Engineers $100 million, even if the city pulls out. He says, we're free to leave this agreement every time. Yeah, you're free, but you got to pay. That's not free. You are contractually obligating the city prematurely. There is no state authorized or ratified environmental impact statement that's been completed. None. So your authorization now is premature. There's no recognition in the PPA itself that there are a number of laws that need to be complied with, and that if the city or the Army Corps of Engineers fails to get these permits, the project needs to stop. And the city should not be in the hook if that happens. Let me conclude by saying I came to this council, I don't think any of you were on it at the time, prior to the rail project being approved, and I told this council that it was vulnerable to a lawsuit for its failure to prepare an archaeological inventory survey. Our claims were dismissed, we were poo-pooed, and the result was we sued and we won because the city failed to do what it needed to do. It rushed through under political pressure. Don't repeat that mistake. Thank you.
Mr. Frankel, did you get a chance to read the proposed CD1?
I did.
And does it address any of your concerns?
Not really. I think somebody earlier used the expression lipstick on a pig. I mean,
Yeah.
for one thing, it's unclear what authority you are retaining, but you need to be much more, what you should say is the resolution should be amended to say, this does not abrogate the city council's power to deny an SMA permit for the project. It does not deny the city council the ability to not fund it. There are a series of specific things that you should lay out. Preserving your rights that are unarticulated is unclear. I don't know. I think there is. I'll say this is being rushed through, and there needs to be a lot more thoughtful consideration of amendments, but I don't even think you're ready for amendments. We need a good EIS to be done at the state level, which is required.
Well, I think you're right. It's being rushed through. I think everybody is in agreement with that. But if the idea is that this funding may be taken away from Hawaii, sent to Louisiana, right? Because there's other projects around the country that are in need of the same money. So we're fighting for the same pot. We could use your help if you could think of how we can preserve the money coming in, but yet will at the same time giving us options.
So I think you guys might be operating on a little bit of a misunderstanding. Legally, I am baffled at the principle that you could lose this money. An act of Congress passed it. Unlike the way city government works or the state government does, the executive branch at the federal level does not have the authority to not spend money that's been appropriated. There are court cases when Nixon tried to impound money. So I understand that our friend Brian Schatz wants things to happen. It makes him look bad to his colleagues. But legally, I don't see how it's at all possible that any of this money is really jeopardized from any legal perspective. The Trump administration can't take that money away. So I understand you guys are hearing things from the senator's office. To me, it's not legal reality. It may have some political gloss behind it, but it has no legal bearing.
Well, let's assume that it is correct.
Okay.
And that, so I'm asking for help, right? I mean, I'm giving you an opportunity to participate and help us draft something that we could still preserve the funding, right? We meet that obligation by keeping the community's concerns in mind. Because it'd be terrible if we did lose the funding. It really would, because of our inaction. I'm really concerned about that.
I will sit down and craft some language. I'll give it some thought. I'll be a lot faster than the Office of Council Services was.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, I just want to point out, sorry, Chair. We were in the executive session. We didn't talk about this subject at all. I'm not sure if anybody said that. But we didn't talk about this subject at all. It was all about other things that are on the calendar as well. So I just want the people to know that we weren't ignoring you. Thank you.
Yeah. So just a quick follow-up if I defer to Council Chair. So isn't the concern that Congress might decide to reallocate those dollars to other projects if they feel that there is inaction on the part of the city?
So I can see that as a political possibility. So there's no. So if that's it, Congress doing it rather than the executive branch, sure, that's possible. I think it's unlikely given the Democrats control the House. Obviously, in the Senate, Schatz and Hirono are in the minority, but I just don't see them. I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible. Given the contentious nature of the relationship between the executive branch and the congressional branch, I mean, the way the budgets are done these days, a project like this, which is not even a fly speck in the whole budget, I don't see it getting attention to remove it from the. I mean, that's how I see it.
Okay, Council Chair.
Thank you, Chair Emeritus. But in fact, the Senator could be correct that we could lose this funding.
And the world could end tomorrow. I mean, everything is possible. I don't. Sure, it's possible Congress could do something, but legally, I don't see how the executive branch can take away the funding for it. But could Congress do something? Yeah. Is that realistic? I don't think so. And I think there's more important things. I understand money is important to you. I think the social and environmental fabric of our community is important, and we shouldn't rip it to shreds. You guys are committing to a project in a way that will tie the hands of future councils and administration. Why do that? Why not wait until more alternatives are on the table?
I understand what you're saying in your speculation, but with all due respect, I believe that the senator's in a much better position to share with us what Congress is likely to do or not to do just because of his position. I think he knows more in that regard than all of us do as to what is likely or not likely to happen.
You can
That's
have that
all.
opinion. I disagree with you. I disagree with Brian. That's fine.
Fair enough. But I sincerely would appreciate your kokua as Councilmember Waters asked to draft something
Okay?
in that regard. If you could kokua there, I think that'd help us a lot.
All right.
Really. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Emeritus.